what led to the rise of Caesar and many sort of proto-Caesars like him before his rise was the breakdown of the Roman Republic, and specifically its breakdown into what was called the conflict of the orders, which was essentially a kind of red state versus blue state kind of class war, social class war that under various names has been going on for about 400 years. And as it turns out, Caesar is actually a member of the Populares. He's a red state man, you would say. But, he does something there were sort of these proto-Caesars, Sulla and Marius, a generation earlier, who were sort of the Hitler and Stalin of their time. And when they took power, they persecuted the other faction very vigorously. And Caesar, although he was a red state man, when he prevailed in the Civil War, he became his way of going about ruling was that he was not, as my friend Mike Anton would say, red Caesar or blue Caesar. He was purple Caesar. He basically contained within him sort of the unity of both of these competing classes. And it turned out that when you eliminated this, the political system, which required both of these sides to participate in this ridiculous drama in which it believed to be defending itself from the other side, and in many cases was in fact defending itself from the other side, both sides, as usual in a conflict, being animated by feelings of self-defense. It turned out that when you eliminated this, the whole culture war in Rome simply went away. And actually, there's no trace of the conflict with orders after the beginning of the imperial period. Now, the imperial period never really... I was about to say,
what did they do with that conflict?
For example, they created the Roman Empire, which did rather well for a number of years. When you read, like, Gibbon, writing in the late 18th century, you're not going to convince me that either of us is more cultured or has a bigger view of history than Gibbon. Gibbon certainly considers the period of the five good emperors from Hadrian to Marcus Aurelius the best government that humanity has ever had. David Hume, agrees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you were to show any of those people the last 250 years of what is sort of the non-ending stream of civil wars and revolutions wrought by, anti-monarchical ideologies, and we add up all the body count of basically regicide regimes, you're getting a pretty substantial body count there. And the sense that, we have solved a problem that the Caesars did not solve, I see the Caesars solving problems that we haven't solved. And, that's why it seems essentially obvious to me. Moreover, one of the things that, if you look at just American history, we have had a Caesar within the lives of those now living, because FDR came very, very close to being the CEO of the American government. When people today think about FDR, college professors, New Yorker readers, good people, they don't think, oh my God, this was the American Hitler. And yet, FDR had 50 times as much control of Washington as Biden does. He could create and destroy agencies. He could set policy. He was, sometimes he had to phone up Congress to get them to rubber stamp something. He was pretty much the CEO of Washington. And, that did not seem to result in any death camps or, I guess we did
internment camps.
Try to take over the world. Well, and we did try to take over the world, but the thing is we succeeded. So nobody blames us for it. I
was about to say, it seems like there's like historical counterexamples in your examples. And so, for instance, like the thing that I think republicanism is supposed to do, that it's okay at. I'm not saying it's great, but I don't think any of this stuff is great. So for instance, like what you kind of said is that when the Caesars took over and they united the populace, both the elites and the working class into a, they said, oh well, I have to guard the interests of both because I'm responsible for both, and also if I piss off one side too much, which you said like, oh well, they erased the conflict. I don't think they erased the conflict. They were responsible for whether or not that conflict got so out of hand that they would be the person blamed for the problems and their heads would end up on pikes. That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Let me explain what I mean by erase the conflict a little bit more, because I think this is a crucial point. I think that fundamentally we have a system which represents sort of a club that blue state people could use to bash red state people and vice versa. And, when I grew up as a blue state person, I was, acutely terrified of like Christians coming to my elementary school and like forcing us to do like Handmaid's Tale shit and like not believe in evolution or sex or whatever. And, in retrospect, that was a very effective way of keeping me on the reservation. And the sense that here you have to collectively work to defend yourselves because here is this other party or this other tribe that, is organizing and could smash you and vice versa. Whereas what you're seeing that was essentially, and by the way, by historical standards, I would say we have gone most of the way toward complete apathy, which is, for example, the attitude toward government that is prevalent mostly in China today. In China, people approve of the regime by 70 to 80% margins. No reason to think that's not genuine. And they
Why
are
is there
absolutely
no reason to not think that's genuine?
Because China is.
And by the way, I want to be respectful. I respect your intellect, but I also want an opportunity to talk as well.
Sure. And yeah, so really what the Caesars induced is an attitude of basically political apathy. I live in California. We have no two-party system here. Political apathy, whoever wants to be governor, that's like who gets to be on TV. I've watched politics die in California over my lifetime. And yeah, that's
also, I need an opportunity to rebut some of this stuff. Please. So listen. Yeah, so for instance, just to try to walk through it chronologically, I might have to bust out a notepad eventually. So when it comes to the Caesars, I think I can agree with you that when you have great monarchs, you can have great times. That's one of the things that liberals don't understand. If they're very hung up in liberalism and republicanism, if they wrap up their ego, they're like, no, every time you have a monarch, everything is gone to shit. No, Marcus Aurelius oversaw the empire during one of the greatest heights. A lot of Caesars and kings sponsored the arts. A lot of them are responsible for great sets of architecture and culture and all that kind of stuff that we look back on, and we still tip our hats to the heydays of our cultures, to back when kings were in charge, because they created these fundamentally awesome works of art and religious achievement. So no, I don't have this hyper liberal attachment to republicanism or individualism or whatever. As a matter of fact, I would say one of the shortfalls of liberalism, individualism, and republicanism is it doesn't hold the collective sacred at all. It kind of views it as profane. So then we don't do anything collective that's of note, unless you consider the Colosseum, which is football in our modern era. Unless you consider that sacred, it doesn't seem like we've achieved a lot. So, I know there's probably some people who do hold it sacred. I don't.
Obviously I'm not a Raiders fan.
Yeah, yeah. So tipping the hat to the monarchs and the central people who did good stuff, that's fine. But kind of getting back to the efficiency example, what's also true is when you have a bad monarch or a bad ruler or a bad oligarch, then it goes bad really fast. And so that's kind of the twist of it, is basically when you have an incompetent executive, they can do a lot of damage really quickly. Now you're like, okay, you can put that person's heads on spikes, all that kind of shit. And maybe on the comparison compared to modern, republics and the anti-regicidal wars, the body count would be less in a, revolution or civil war. But that's not the way history, at least as I was taught it, went down. There were loads of revolutions and kings and people stabbing each other in the back and murdering the out of each other, and people getting tied up, their families literally being tied up, one of them being stabbed in the chest and the other person being thrown into the river with their dead family member's body attached to them. There's all sorts of crazy shit like this in the past. So
who've seen Game
and this is all. No, it's not Game of Thrones. It's the War of the Roses.
Yeah. Sure.
Which Game of Thrones is based off of?
Sure. Can I answer that? I mean, I feel like we're actually, in danger of making this stream boring through excessive agreement. So I want to highlight.
Well, if people don't know the War of the Roses, I don't care how.
I agreed with sort of almost everything you said there, and everything you said. Sort of historically, this is the problem of, I would say, when you say you want a good monarch, I would say that I want what I would call an accountable monarch. And what's neat about sort of the like Western corporate form that makes all this good stuff like computers and microphones and stuff is that it's kind of solved that problem, because the way a company is run is typically not just a CEO, but a CEO with a board to which he or she is accountable. Now, we also have many corporations such as Meta, I can't really call it that, which actually have disabled that mechanism and have, Mark Zuckerberg as full and complete emperor due to his position of magic shares. I was about to say,
I got to make a quick joke about that. And then he basically spent because he was a solo and unaccountable monarch, he spent $1 billion making a shittier version of Roblox and Minecraft. So yeah, like monarchies can go pretty bad pretty fast.
Well, the thing is that we have sort of strange like standards for comparing these things, because I would say that if you look at, say, the Fortune 500 CEOs, okay, it's fairly easy to hire a Fortune 500 CEO. There's, firms that will do it. And, let's take the worst, 5 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and we will assign them to be CEO, chief monarch, whatever, of the 5 worst countries in Africa. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how these motherfuckers do. And, my guess is that, each of those African countries would experience a radical improvement in quality of government, probably fairly similar to the improvement brought by Paul Kagame in Rwanda, who, I don't know if Kagame would make a great Fortune 500 CEO, but he seems to have about certainly be in that sort of skill pool. So we basically see that, like, you can basically take this principle of monarchy with an effective monarch, which we agree on, and apply this to the shittiest shithole in the world, whose existence is makes Game of Thrones look like Bambi, and and yet Kigali, I would walk around Kigali at night in ways I would not walk around Brooklyn at night, right? And it's clean also, which is insane. And what
country is this, by the way?
What? Rwanda.
And Lord Miles said a similar thing about Afghanistan when he was there, that he found it way safer than London.
Oh, hold on. Was that is that I hate to reduce his public profile to this, but is that like Sargon of Akkad's friend?
No,
who does, weird travel shit.
Lord Miles is a great man, very young man, very promising. He was the guy. He was the student. He's not really a lord apparently, but he should be a lord.
And BTR guest as well.
Has he been a guest here?
He has several times. Yes.
Yeah. I'm. You can put me on with Miles next time. I would love to talk to Lord Miles.
Yeah. But, if you guys want Lord Miles and Curtis Yarvin in the same stream, subscribe right now and also join the Patreon. Patreon.com/breaktherules. Anyway, go on, Curtis.
Yeah. In any case, when we compare Afghanistan under civil society to Taliban-led Afghanistan, we see just obvious improvements in quality of governance in sort of many ways in many places. And we're just like, wait.
You also see a lot of silly shit too, right?
It's true. But basically,
the liberal sensibilities. Okay, by the way, I'm not like a screeching progressive. Okay, I kind of identify as center right, so I try not to. I try not to poop my pants whenever, there's a little bit of a civil rights violation, but at the same time, you're saying, so for instance, I can concede logically that there's probably a lot less heroin in downtown Kabul now than there was during American democratic whatever rule, right? Like the Taliban probably
don't tolerate that shit. American democratic whatever, that's good. That indicates you have a sense of that this is an empire that has conquered the world.